So as part of the background to the introduction of the ELEV8 programme to help people take up personal responsibility for their lives and become whole people so they're not prey to any effort to pull them down, I thought I should share the experience I went through in Christmas, New Year, 2014-15. I'd just been rebuked. Well, no, I hadn't been rebuked. My rebuke came on the 9th of January. I'd been really given a good going over at Boston by Bruce Hales, 2014. And then when I got home, they didn't let me go to the meetings, and I did in the end, but was very much in trouble, sitting back, you know, oh dear, some small place within the door kind of thing. And my family looked shocked, and all my local brethren looked shocked, as though they realised something terrible was happening. So I decided to just put that to one side and try and pull my life together. And over Christmas, I must have been a real bore to the family. I just spent days honestly trying to look at my whole life and appraise where I was. I decided to have a real long, hard look at where things had gone wrong, and with a view to improving myself and taking a grip of my life so that I could survive this onslaught, which was culminating, as I said, in the rebuke, 9th of January. I went to a firm of lawyers in Bradford, actually, while I was in the Brethren, and just shared what I was going through. I mean, I was just completely at sixes and sevens. And they said to me, well, one thing you must never do is take on a religion. It never works. I suppose there's a lot of Muslim affiliated religions, Sikhs and all that in Bradford. And basically, that's the one thing you can't do. Religion is so entrenched and so ingrained into the way of life and the culture of the people that go that they'll never change. But the thing you need to work on is your relationship with your family. I said, but I've tried reasoning with Jed. He's just absolutely intransigent and will not speak respectfully to me. And I'm just like batting my head against a brick wall. Well, that's your only way. Get your relationship back with your family. So I said thanks and went off and got hold of a self-help book. Just sort of, I think I kept my front row seat in the meeting, not that that matters too much, but just looked a bit bemused and made one or two remarks, but I could feel that doom was descending and gloom and doom. So anyway, having thought it through and decided to take it very seriously, I actually, as you can see from the information I've shared, I actually got photographs out to help me focus on the objects of my love, if you like, objects of my affections, so that I could pull myself round to being a good family man again. Because the way Bruce Hales spoke to me, I mentioned Jarl, my son who was out of fellowship, to him at Boston, and, you know, felt very responsible for that. Although, in retrospect, I think it was the system I was in rather than my lack of fatherhood. But when you've got trustees like Lee Armstrong condemning you for being a bad father, you have to kind of accept that you don't know as good as these people. And when someone drives with Jarl and tries to reason, I suppose that's a family feature. We're not very easy to negotiate with. We're pretty once our heels are dug in, it's hard to negotiate with a Christie. So I guess they've learned a bit of that from the dad. But you do expect a bit of respect and honour for the father, especially when you've entrusted your business to your family. But nevertheless, I'm not here to complain. I decided to try and pick myself up. So I'll just read out the 8. We've already covered the 8 things that we need in life, every one of us, from the top to the bottom. So I thought I would concentrate on family. So I literally worked out the following and actually signed and sealed it on the 13th of January, which is 4 days after my rebuke, when my world collapsed. The religion that I devoted my whole life to turned on me and said some terrible things about me, and I just went home and wept. I think I don't want to go over that any longer. But number 1, aim, family. I will keep Deb, that's my wife, happy at all times. And so you have to describe it. I will spend time understanding her and give her what she wants. See, I had money, that was not an issue. I did then. So I was trying to really just identify what her real heart desires were. And clearly it was all to do with, it was difficult because it was all to do with Bruce Hales and the religion. She wasn't showing, with all due respect to her, because she'd heard these bad things about me and I was in big trouble, she didn't really respect me like she did previously. But again, another goal, because we were told in this course not to have more than 3 goals, because if you have in each subject, because if you have too many, you don't do any of them right. So the next one was, family, I will keep Jed and Casey happy at all times. Well, Jed beetled off to Sydney for a year, straight after my rebuke, I think about the 11th or 12th of January, and was very much in the Haleses' affections. So, how do I break that down? And this is the secret. If you're actually going to fulfill a goal, you give more detail than just a goal, you break it down. So, pay for best treatment and demonstrate affection, understand them, that's him and his wife, and spend time identifying and helping them to achieve their goals. And this was genuine stuff. I mean, I'm not a faker. You can call me a few things, but I don't bullshit. I'm a serious guy when it comes down to committing myself to something. Whenever I try to help people, as many people and couples in the Brethren, I really did spend time trying to understand the problem and trying to come up with a solution. That's me. People may say I'm too serious. Well, fair enough. But you can't joke around, can you, when you're talking about people's mental state and distress? That's no joke. So when people are in prison or have a nervous breakdown or with a girl from work or victims of paedophile activity, that's serious, serious stuff. And so the next one was, I will do all I can to get Jarl back into fellowship by 31st of December 2015. So I gave myself a year to get the one guy, because I was very much a family man. I loved my family, absolutely. So there was one missing, like the lost sheep of Luke 15. I wanted to do all I could to get him back. And I did work on that a lot during 2015, despite being in so much trouble. So be out of the box by showing him Brethren videos and introducing him to different Brethren environments. Now you might say this is all very insular, all very Brethren orientated, but that's all I knew. This was my life. I thought it was my calling. And people who aren't in the Brethren or in a cult will probably think, why didn't this guy just break out of that straitjacket and reach out to other people because he wasn't getting any change from his family? But hey, I'm a perseverer, I guess. I'm pretty resilient. I keep going when others might give up. So I literally decided to keep going. And then the other thing for the family was, we will have moved house by December 2015. And then firstly, we'll decide which house we want to buy and then plan to make it how we want it. And I put a photograph of Bramham Park Hall and the stable block next door, which the brethren were wanting to use as a school, but they'd moved on and obviously now wanted the site for development. And I'm worried about whether the motive for sites, for meeting rooms and schools has been led by money, i.e. real estate value, rather than the best for kids and having places on their doorsteps that kids haven't got to travel. But I'll leave that on the table. So that was they were my family goals. And I thought they were achievable. I'm a positive person. I genuinely thought that if I worked with the powers that be, because that's as far as you're allowed to go in there, Bruce Hales at the top, and then the UK hierarchy, they don't accept it, but it is John Rich and Garth Christie, my brother, younger brother, that if I could persuade these guys, reason with them, like you do when you're trying to sell, where you try and understand what the customer wants and provide provide a solution to where his weak spots are. And so I was going to try and get some honesty, good dialogue going with Garth. So anyway, the next was social. I will be reconciled with Bruce Hales by 13th of April 2015. So how would I do that? Make contact with him and apologise for past misdemeanours, get direction from Bruce Hales for future. And that's what you do in there. You go to the man of God. And because he told me when he came to our house in 2008 that I had a direct line to him at any time, I thought that he would listen to me. When I went to get his number, Garth wouldn't give me it. Oh no, he had a special link with him, but not me. He wouldn't, I can't give you Bruce Hales' number, so I never got that direct link. Nevertheless, he said it, so I thought that he may, once he got the true story, engage in dialogue and help me to do things and achieve these things. I realised that if he said, yeah, I could come back, he could come back. I'm not daft. And I realised too that if he said I had to go out of fellowship, because he said I should be shut up anyway, I had to go out of fellowship and be shut up. But that didn't deter me, because I didn't feel I was evil inside. Look, I'm not going to claim anything, but I just didn't feel I'd merited this treatment. So the other was social. I will be reconciled with all my local brethren by 31st of December 2015. That's the Leeds brethren, who have apparently clubbed together last year to try and turn me into a criminal. So you can understand why it was quite difficult to achieve these goals, because they obviously didn't have any respect for me, because they wouldn't have done what they tried to do this last year, 2022, in clubbing together and turning him into a criminal, potentially putting him into jail, if they really respected and loved me. So you can understand it was important. So I put as the description of how I would do that, identify those that are distant and actively set up communication channels. So I did. I identified people like Mark Bailey, and I've got a string of emails, but he kept coming back to what Bruce Hales had said at Boston, sowing discords, leading a party and all that. So he was actually using Bruce Hales' judgment of me to block any respectful dialogue so that we could sort matters out. And of course, I was only going 27 priestly visits during this time. And, I remember trying to negotiate with them to try and get reconciled. And to a certain extent, one or two did come and see me and showed sympathy, like Mike Shorto, good guy. One or two others who let me down badly, and then like Ryan Lum. But there was a little bit of ground gained, but far more lost. And so I never got anywhere, but at least I tried. I set my goals and tried. But when you've got a judgment hanging over you, it's very difficult to gain respect. And the letters I've written, the fact that the letters were discussed in court last week was openly, and my barrister showed how respectful my letters were. Actually, they weren't hatred. They weren't born out of hatred at all. They were an appeal. He read out the heading of the letter that they were taking up against me, appeal to Garth Christie for justice and fairness. Well, nothing could be more genuine than that. So the next, personal development. I will adhere to my goal plan every day. So I set goals out for the year. And read the goals daily until they are in my subconscious, and then execute them. So all those things I've just mentioned, I put them right in my heart and soul, you might say, to stick to, come what may, come hell or high water, to try and get on with these people and pick my life up. And then the other personal development goals, I will use many techniques throughout 2015 to develop my mind. Now this was my lifesaver, really. Watch videos and read books, take on training advice and keep alert. And that, I did a lot of reading, including my Bible. 2015, in fact, starting, I think it was December 14, I read right through my Bible and really set myself. So while all this was going on, and I had some, I pulled a lot out of the scriptures that sustained me. I went down to Hereford, took some meetings down there, 2 meetings in August 2015, and just quoted a lot of these scriptures that I'd been reading, and the brethren seemed to love it. So the pure word of God is inspirational. I mean, it's inspired, isn't it? It's the inspired word of God. So yeah, I was very committed to what I knew. People will say, well, the Bible and the religion is all very small, but the Bible is wide, actually. The whole teaching is you get a sense of the greater, a sense of God. And it's very fine how divine persons, the Holy Spirit, can keep you stimulated when you're going through the greatest suffering. Psalm 23, it's a wonderful psalm in that connection. Going over, when I go through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So, beautiful scriptures which I'd read and imbibed, kept me sane. And that link that you have with the greater, call it the universe, just getting into a flow, very, very important in life, really. And then in health, every day I will walk the equivalent distance as walking to work and back from home. So I've built my business premises close to home. It seems sensible. And so it's all part of, so I wouldn't have to queue up in traffic in going into town or some other place for ages. Efficient use of time. Any businessman would know how important that is. And then find opportunities to walk daily when I do not walk to work. So I did commit myself to a lot of walking. Many in the brethren would know I used to take the school kids out at the time of homeschooling, and the mothers were so relieved. I'd take them out on 8-mile walks, and then we'd have a game of soccer. Or it was very much against the prevailing mindset in the hierarchy of the day. Oliver Smorden kept giving words about the pool, 3 pools, and the evil of sport. But I actually coped with that and still did it. And the parents were very thankful. So I'm not looking for brownie points or anything like that, but I don't, some of these brethren may just say, hey, I remember that now, yeah, and might dare to say to Garth or Neil or Josh, hey, is your dad all that bad? Even if he's done a lot of terrible things in the last 10 years, 20 years ago, he helped me cope during homeschooling. I don't know. Some people might think I did a good job in funding Bramett Park Hall and the purchase in 2007 and 8. I don't know, but I'm not here to look for compliments. But I do think it's important that what came out in the court was that the witnesses were saying bad things about me, but they hadn't taken into consideration the whole picture. Like, for instance, they were taking me to task on a reply to an email that Garth sent to me the very month that I was shut up, just before I was shut up. And the lawyer, Casey, kept, this is a reply. Did you ever bother to look at the letter that you were copied into that was sent to, that Garth sent to Lance just before I shut up? Oh, I can't remember. I don't know. And quite evasive. That communication was the build-up to me being shut up. Now, if they loved me, or had any respect for me, they would read that letter and, did I have any part in this? And I was really saying that the brethren that were copied in to the awful things that were said about me are culpable because they didn't do anything to stop Garth in that quest to shut me up and ask me to leave my house, which I obliged to, and then change the locks a couple of days later so I couldn't get back into the house that I owned. I mean, they don't tell you the full story. When they ask you to leave home, they don't tell you that you won't be allowed back in and we're going to change the locks. No, but so we're just pleading for the whole picture. Balance bad with good, if you like. If you've got something good you can say about a person, you might save his life if you bring that forward to offset the judgment that's raining down on him. I hope that makes sense. And then, health. I will eat and drink healthily and in a balanced way throughout 2015, and so on. Well, I mustn't go on. I could go through the whole lot. My idea with ELEV8 is that, which sits under the LJC Foundation umbrella, which stands for ethical business, is to go into businesses and offer the secret to wholesomeness to all members of a business, so that everyone is taking responsibility for their lives, not just in the business, but in the whole sphere of life. I used to be one of the founding directors of One Medifund, which is a private health care scheme, largely for brethren businesses. And the whole idea there was that businesses paid for the well-being of their staff. So we would go in and present private healthcare as an add-on to the National Health Service available to all in the UK. And because the NHS isn't all it should be for all people, we offered fast diagnosis, and it was fundamentally a good scheme. It's far too expensive, especially for old people, but that's another issue. The concept was there. The idea was born that a good boss, a good employer, will want his staff to be healthy, not just because it means that he gets more man hours out of them because they're not off sick, but because it elevates the business in the eyes of potential employees, because they know that if they go to that business, they're going to be healthy, and it's a perk. And wow, British Airways offer it, and massive firms like that. So we brought the whole idea down to brethren businesses. And so a good employer wants his employees to be healthy. Well, I've taken that further. Health is one of the 8 things we all need, an important part of life, but only an 8th. You know, you could be ever so healthy, Charles Atlas stuff, but not much good on other aspects of life, maybe spiritual, or you might be miserable, bad attitude. So having understood the need for life balance. I believe now that I'm in a position, through the deep experiences I've been through, to go out into the world, families potentially, but it needs to be en masse. I haven't got time to go to every single family, much as I'd like to. But largely businesses, because you've got breadwinners there, and let's face it, the breadwinner in a family, especially in the breadwinner, because the women don't have to earn money, so they have a very, as far as finance and career is concerned, they have a very easy life. It's amazing they can be millionaires without doing a stroke of work to contribute to the making of that money. So of course they tend to think that Bruce Hales, the leader, is fantastic because they've got all this money raining in, massive cars, massive houses, a husband that's going off to work every day, and life's on a plate. And of course, my wife was a hard worker. She had 7 kids, credit to her. But when it came to stepping in and taking over my business and taking it away from me, she did that obligingly, but she'd never worked in the business. So he's got a lot of women followers as Bruce Hales, but trouble is that leaves the women weak on finance and career in that particular organisation. Very happy though to be weak in those areas because they leave it to the husbands. But that's dangerous because when you get a split like we've had, it leaves my wife weak and me weak because we never thought we'd have a split. We never ever, I'm quite sure she didn't, thought until she heard all these so-called bad things which I challenge about me. So it's very important to develop this wholesomeness. So simply, wholesomeness sets you free, free to be your best self, free from coercion, control, and narcissism. And the idea is that I will then present to all the staff in a business, and I will then, maybe in the main room of the business, I could present to a religion, I could present to a cult, to try and help people, and I'd be very glad to. Universities, whatever institution there is. And then I would say, right, now we've got you here, maybe 100 people, maybe 500, I don't mind. Roll them on. I once addressed, I once presented the One Medifund scheme at the Excel Arena to thousands of brethren that travelled in coaches down to hear me present the One Medifund scheme. And John Anderson got up after me from Sydney and said, Lax is a believer. Well, he knows I'm a believer. I believe in what I preach. I live my life. I walk the talk, you might say. That's me. He knows that. That's why I'm here today, because I want to share the secrets of my success. You might think I'm a failure because I fall out with the PBCC, but you're entitled to your opinion. But I think I've succeeded. I think I'm a survivor, a victor, if you like. So in this hall, I would say, right, unless you're prepared to be honest, there's no room for fakers in here. This ELEV8 scheme is for honest people, people who are prepared to look inside themselves and take issue with weak spots. And so I would then say, look, if you're not prepared to be honest with yourself, and don't look left and right at your neighbour, just take it in. Don't forget peer pressure. Don't pander to a leader or pander to what's acceptable. Just concentrate on yourself now for the next hour or half hour, however long the company gives me. And then I would say, right, I want a show of hands on each of these points which constitute life. And I would then say, right, how many people want help on attitude? There'll be a show of hands. Career, show of hands. Family, finance, health, personal development, social, and spirit. Now, I'm not sure, but let's dig into one of them. Say most people put their hand up and said they wanted help on attitude. Well, attitude. Well, what is attitude? I call it above the line thinking. A positive, good attitude is above the line thinking. Bad attitude is below the line thinking. So if you're above the line, I can do this, lads. I can take a cult on and cause them to change because so they're legal and in line with their charitable status. Yeah. Whereas a victim would say, I can't do this. Ooh, too hard. Oh, I'd rather stay in my comfort zone. Or I call it a victim. That's a below the line thinker. If you've got a good attitude, you'll take ownership of your situation, like I'm trying to help you to do now by teaching you wholesomeness. Whereas if you're a below the line thinker, you'll blame others. Oh, I'm miserable, but it's his fault. And, I used to hear a lot of complaints about the hierarchy in the Brethren, but they tended to say, but Bruce Hales will get us to heaven. So even though Garth's a bit of a bully, and I find Mark Bailey tough, Bruce Hales, we know that if we trust him, we'll get there in the end. But whatever, below the line thinkers make excuses. And they're in denial. They're in denial of the obvious. Whereas above the line thinkers take up responsibility. So if we can look for a minute at the attitude part of the wheel, which is just an eighth of life, I think it's very, very important that we have a good attitude. You might say optimism as opposed to pessimism. And however else you want to say it. But I'm going to convey and let you into a secret that I've then got another wheel. If most hands go up on attitude, I will then spend time in front of the audience talking about attitude. Now, I've worked out that attitude, for instance, as an example, relies on 8 things, another 8 things. So the wheel behind attitude is belief and vision, positivity, decisive, brave and driven. Number 4, trust and confidence. 5, taking ownership, being committed. 6, gratitude and meditation. 7, fluidity, flexibility. 8, accountability. So I believe, I've worked out, and this has gone in the result of a lot of thought, that those are what constitute a good attitude. So if anybody wants help on attitude, I can help them. And then we look at those 8 things, and people decide which they're weak on and need most help out of those. So if we then look at belief and vision, well, if people, John Anderson said you were a believer, but I need help to believe because I'm struggling to believe. I'm struggling with the vision. Well, I would then go through the 8 things you need to have a vision and believe that things can happen. If you don't believe, it won't happen. So 2 of those, I'm not going to give you all my secrets away straight away, but just to give you a taster as to how it would go. For instance, I just picked 2. Gives oneself to something beyond yourself. Yeah, well, that's great, isn't it? Another, assumes personal responsibility readily. That's just giving you a clue. If you want help on positivity, well, 2 of the 8 is anticipates the best. Yeah. Hey, if I do this, if I make a stand for the truth, the best will happen. Of course it will. If you're false, you're on a downer. Simple as that. The other is identifies and isolates problems. So to keep positive, shove negative people, negativism, out of the way. Keep positive. And that's what I had to do when all these doom gloom sessions were going on towards me when I was last in the Brethren, because they need a lot of help and attitude in there. It's really attitude, to my mind, a good attitude equals good mental health. There are many mental health problems in the world today. The British government are saying it's one of the biggest problems in Britain at the moment. And you know what? You know what? They are reaching out to some churches and saying that they know that God is the answer. They know that Christ is the answer. There are some good Christians in the government. Can you help us? I've got that on good authority. See, a positive attitude, if someone leaves your institution, wish them the best. Thank you for what you've done. That would be gratitude, wouldn't it? And we wish you all the best in your future religion or your future job. You don't leave under a cloud. When Jonathan Lacey left, Gordon Hulbert left, others who worked for me in business, I gave them the cars. You know, you've done well for me, lads. One was to start you up in competition. So I gave him a car. And then when I found he was in competition, people came and said, oh, you should take him on, take him, start a legal case against him. No, the world's a wide place, we'll survive. And it was tough. Garth came in and Jed and poured through the books and basically tried to say that Jonathan Lacey was no good. He was brilliant. But he's now running a business down the road in competition to WeAveable. Well, I'm out of both now, so it's not my worry. But the world's a big place. We don't need to fall out because somebody thinks somebody starts on their own, or somebody thinks different to me in a religion, or some point of doctrine, or, you know, we don't need to be nasty to people. So I hope that gives an insight into how it would work. And yeah, I'll go to any, I think, take the Brethren businesses and the very, very successful one. I'd love to go in there. I'm not one of the Brethren, but you can do business with non-Brethren. So why don't they invite Lance Christie along? Honestly, I'm no harm. And help me to teach your staff, your Brethren staff, wholesomeness. So that if there's something militating against that in your business or in your religion or in your family or in any other environment, I'll help you impartially. I won't treat you as one of the Brethren members. I'll just treat you as a normal human being so that you are stronger. And if your name's Fred, we want the best Fred. We want you to be your very best and free and confident and outgoing and able to, if business is your big thing, because you want to be up there, well, learn how to exude what you are to your customers. So they say, hey, this is a good guy. He's not worried as soon as I mention religion or ask about separation or tries to come up with something fuzzy. This guy knows what he's talking about. He's confident. And so it's very important in the spiritual part of life or the spirit part of life that you know why you are where you are, why you're doing what you're doing. You understand doctrine, put it up to challenge, and ask questions if you don't understand things. Otherwise, you're just going along with the crowd. You're not in control of your own destiny. And that's simply what I want you to be. I wasn't when I was in there because my business, as I said before, my business life was taken away overnight. My social life was taken away. My friends, my family was taken away. And my career and finance were taken away. Massive legal battles to get my finance. So I was very much not in control of my destiny in there. My destiny was in the control of a man called Bruce Hales in Sydney. Well, he really does need to be God if he's in control of 53,000 lives around the world. He does really need to be absolutely the most honest man on earth. No propaganda, no make-believe, no stating that things are better than they are. He just needs to be dead honest and dead real with himself, first of all. And then honesty and truth can rule. That's all we want. We don't want to break up religions. We want to challenge them so that they can help every single person in there, not despise one. So God despises not any. Well, religion needs to follow God's ways and set people up, make them whole, make them, I was going to say, full-blooded. That means you are what you are, your personality, your empathy, all the good things about you are God-given, your conscience, as we've said. So get on with it, folk. I'm ready to help you, despite my idiosyncrasies, despite all. And I just hope that one or two decent guys who know that I've got no other motive than to help will reach out to me. And my number is 07488550001 +44 and drop the 0 if you're abroad, and pay my fare to come across. Pay me some money, make me an offer, whether it's, I'm not bothered, Sydney, US, seriously, Germany, Spain, Argentine, Canada, UK, of course, England, Scotland, Wales. Yeah, I'm here to help. Seriously, that's all. Just to help. Thank you.